So I want to give you 3 reasons why, if you're a brand that sells online, you should be using YouTube in your strategy. So this isn't for all brands. I mean, definitely, I'm a huge believer in filmmaking and storytelling as a way of your marketing communication, but this is going to work a lot better if you're a brand that's doing, let's say, over 100,000 a month, 500,000 a month, something like that, up to the million plus line. You can do this. Of course, I think people should be basically what I'm gonna say on this. You'll see why. Even if you're small, you can use this too. But I'd say this definitely isn't a beginner strategy. It's a more advanced strategy. And so if you are a brand that's doing that and you've got good sales, revenue's good, and you're looking to just increase customers, increase your profitability, increase your general direct-to-consumer pipelines, then you should definitely consider YouTube as a strategy inside your marketing for the following reasons. So the first one, well, I'll put a title on this. So 3 reasons for YouTube to increase money. So the first reason is organic SEO. So years ago, probably should have looked at what year it was before I made this, but YouTube was acquired by Google. And one of the big reasons for that was because they were seeing a trend in searches. So there are probably more people searching on YouTube for things than there are on Google now. A lot of people like to use video to find things out. A lot of people use YouTube for long tail keywords, which are, you might know this, but instead of just saying best wines, people might search best wines to drink in the summer. So the SEO ability and their algorithmic ability to really cater content for people to find videos, whether those were reviews, unboxings, education, whatever the case, there is space for your brand to have a voice within that. And the reason, so to capitalize on that kind of SEO. And the reason that it's more organic is because the way that the YouTube algorithm is set up, it's really just constantly feeding people stuff that it knows so much about what they like to watch, more than a human could ever know. And so you're going to open up your ability to reach customers in a very, very growth-centered way. And that's because, especially if you know a lot about your customer, which is why it's really good to use this if you are a brand that's doing, again, 50,000 a month, 100,000 a month, 5, whatever that is, because you clearly have a good idea of what your customers are looking for and how to engage them. Now, depending on what kind of values you have and how your storytelling works, obviously the kinds of videos you have on YouTube might change. Maybe they'll be brand ambassador driven, so you've got people that you have, making collab content with other influencers. I don't really like that term, but brand ambassadors. You might do unboxings if it's very tactical and you've spent a lot of time on your packaging and you really refer on that kind of word of mouth. People like to see stuff being used, opened. You might want to go that route. Or you can go more on a storytelling route of lifestyle films. Patagonia is a great example of that. You might want to go documentary. Patagonia is also a great example of that. Adidas is doing a lot of that work. And it's also a place for you to just house all of your commercial work and any of the content that you're doing. So the big one is, number one is definitely organic SEO. The second one is user intent. So this kind of relates to organic SEO, but essentially, as opposed to social media buying, which is like, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, things like that, or maybe even YouTube ads, but we're basically taking our content and putting it in front of people. As opposed to this, which is user intent, they're actually looking for the stuff. They are actively choosing, hey, I want to see this. And when you meet people in that place where they've looked for you as opposed to you interrupting them with interruptive advertising or trying to position in their feed, that can obviously works and it has its own purpose, but specifically for the benefits of YouTube, a lot of these people, right, including myself, I watch a lot of YouTube, are actively looking for that information. And our customers are not one-dimensional, right? They're multi-dimensional. So even if you sell activewear, even if you sell shoes, there's a place for you to have a brand voice that's built in user intent if you know enough about what other things they might be interested in. Maybe, if you sell activewear, there might be a relationship to meditation, yoga, I'm thinking off the top of my head, but the environment. So it allows you to position your content with those kinds of headlines, things that aren't even related to the fact that you sell stuff, but just, again, you're having your voice in the space and you're providing informational or educational or infotainment stuff to your consumer base based on very specific outcomes that that they want anyway, very specific actions that they want to watch and take in. And so that's the user intent piece. And then the third one is, and let me just check my notes, long form storytelling. So the benefit of long form storytelling is that it's highly shareable. Obviously, we talk a lot about virality and how things, usually we think of that as being maybe short because people are more likely to share things that are short. But short, long, doesn't really matter in terms of shareability. What matters more is emotions. The emotions that can be found in long-term storytelling. So when people share stuff, it's because they found it funny, interesting, they aligned with it in some way and thought that their friends would too. So you're gonna get a lot of organic growth by putting stuff out there that is rooted in the emotional storytelling that your brand already has. Now, this is why it's a bit more of an advanced strategy, because that can take a little bit to figure out what that is. But once you have a solid idea of whether people buy from you because of a promise of happiness or because of a promise, maybe it's family, maybe it's sustainability, whatever it is, your ability to tell long form stories and truly get that messaging across, not in a way that says buy this product, but in a way that says, we get you. And of course that's thrown around a lot, so I'm trying to think of a better example of it. But one way, I guess, for me of feeling like, okay, this represents me as a person and I'm more likely to engage in the brand, are things around diversity and inclusion. So that's just one example. There's a lot of things, but one is diversity inclusion. Another one is I really like motivation and action. So Nike's a great example of that because it really capitalizes on people like me who really enjoy watching stuff that motivates them and makes them feel determined and makes them feel like they are going to accomplish something that day, let's say. So that is one way that a brand, again, such as Nike, can use long-form storytelling as well as short-form storytelling, can be 30 seconds, but to use that emotional driver as the main core call to action in their content. That's not just, hey, come to Nike and buy this product, but the call to action is, hey, get up and do something today. And Each brand customer base is gonna have a different idea of what that is for them. But if you do some of the research, and obviously, again, the strategy, you're already in a pretty decent place with your customers. So really taking that feedback, taking that understanding, and turning it into a solid YouTube strategy. And the last thing I'll say about this as it relates to bringing cash in, make sure that the website obviously is there on the YouTube channel. Every video should have that. This is where our website is. And you can cross-reference, once you start doing this, the analytics from YouTube, how many people are watching, what the duration is, what the sharing is, what your subscriber base is, what the comments are saying, all of that, and cross-reference that with your online analytics from your online sales channel, your conversion rates, your bounce rates, your traffic, your your add to carts, all of that stuff. You will see a direct correlation. And the best part about all of this is that you're not really even having to pay to acquire these customers. I mean, we know that that's probably the most expensive thing that you'll do, especially in a brand building world where, if you're going with brand, you're going for longevity, you're going for longevity growth too. So, it's well beyond the products that you're selling. So to acquire that customer is something that you will either have to pay for or you'll have to do from organic. Ideally, you're doing both. So this is why it's such a great tool, because once people know about you, maybe they won't buy that day. But again, look at Nike as an example, right? It's like, I've known about Nike since I was a kid. I don't know how much they paid to acquire me from a mindshare perspective, but I've bought a ton of their stuff. And so you really need to think about your customer base as a long-form growing relationship where maybe people hear about a kid, they don't buy their first pair of Nike shoes until they're 18, but that shouldn't matter. What matters is that you're getting those core values out there to the people that want to see them, and then they will buy your products as a byproduct of that value, which could be a whole other video, but I just wanted to keep it to YouTube. So good luck if you have been putting stuff out there or you're going to start putting stuff up there. It is a really, really great revenue source for your brand.